The libretto was based on the Bram Stoker's novel. Two Swedish librettists, Christian Binke and Klaus-Peter Helvig, came to me with this idea already for many years ago, and I immediately decided that yes, I want to write this opera. What we was trying to do is, of course, to adapt this book to the opera stage, but also we have changed a little bit things around the main characters. The story is basically is the same as in the book, and I think for me the opera is still about the great theater performance. Well, people, of course, they sing in the opera, but what is happening on stage is very important. It's at least as important as the song itself, as what is happening in the orchestra. The action moves forward very fast. I was trying to concentrate on the tempo of the performance. I read the novel, and of course Dracula is getting such a popular subject now again. It was hard for me to imagine that no one has written ever an opera on the subject, because there was a musical written, it's a ballet done already, but opera not. So I was very much surprised by the request of the librettist. I said, but there must be opera. And they said, no, let's do one. I reread it and I was astonished how nicely and quietly this book starts. I don't remember that the story, it all starts in a private home. And this is the letter which is read by the young woman. Opera starts with her, it ends with her, walking out of all this horrible chain of events. It is a book which is the set of letters of people writing to each other, also the set of quotes from their journals they are writing. So there is no direct narration by Bram Stoker. This is happening now, and so we learn to know the reaction of these people also to the events they're describing in their journals and letters, which is, I think, is very, very, also triggered my imagination as a composer. Dracula is an opera written for the Royal Opera House in Stockholm. It was a commission from 2011. The Stockholm Opera is beautiful. The room where we are sitting just now at the moment, it's one of the most interesting interiors you can find in the buildings here in the city. Lots of gold, old paintings, nice furniture, everything you expect it to be in the old opera houses. And I think the Gothic atmosphere of the opera will fit very well in the opera house here in Sweden, as it will for sure make a perfect home in any elder opera house in Europe and whatever part of the world. Of course, we have the vampires, we have singers, we have the dancers, we have choir, people who are on stage and acting there as audience in this scientific theater, or vampire hunters, or just a crowd around Dracula, crowd in London. So we have lots of singing, moving around, dancing even, lots of action on stage. Well, as I mentioned before, there is a lot of movement on stage all the time. I was trying to keep the tempo of the performance on very high speed, but there are, of course, the oases of from time to time when people are talking to each other, expressing their feelings. Like, for instance, the duet of Mina and Lucy at some certain point, quite early in the opera, when they are singing out their dreams of two young girls about the perfect marriage in the future. I have a number of scenes in this opera which demands all the full orchestral and the forces from both choir and orchestra and organ and everything, and actually this electronic things also. So I think it's a good balance between this wild action and some very private scenes between 2, 3, maximum 4 people. The most important character for me in the librettis, it is not Dracula, surprisingly enough. It's the person called Mina Murray in the beginning, then she marries to Jonathan Harker and she becomes Mina Harker. She goes through the personal development from the beginning to the end of the opera. She becomes stronger, she becomes more mature. When we meet her first, the whole opera starts with Mina sitting on stage by the table at her private home in London, reading the letter written by her fiancé, Jonathan, and she is at the moment very naive, very positively thinking, very open young woman. She meets Dracula, she gets tempted to start a relationship with him, and at the end it is her who has to kill Dracula to put the definite end to all these horrors going on in London. And she also walks out of her unhappy marriage with Jonathan Harker, and what is going to become of her after this grande finale of the opera, we don't know. But for me, she's obviously the one who undergoes the total change during these 2 hours. And of course we have Dracula, sung by the baritone voice. It's the most popular figure in all this tradition of vampire stories, which are many. His story is told in many books and in the films. But strangely enough, we are the first people who are doing the opera about Dracula. Count Dracula, he is the Blood Dracula, one of the earlier rulers in some part of Transylvania, which was also the part of Turkey, as I understood. And he was very famous for being cruel to his subjects, and how the whole story about him becoming the vampire started, who did transform him into the character of vampire, it's still unknown. I don't think it was Bram Stoker. She ends up as one of the first victims of Count Dracula as a vampire, who comes to London, makes acquaintances with the people around her, and she not only kills her, he also he does other ugly stuff to her, and she becomes the vampire. So at the end, or before the end, they have to kill her, literally kill her one more time. Then, of course, we have the Jonathan Harker, the suitor, and the fiancé of Mina, Murray, who at the beginning of the opera goes to Transylvania to meet Count Dracula on business, and he also has very unpleasant experiences. He turns back to London. He is slightly handicapped after all the events of the one unfortunate night and the Count Dracula castle. He is totally depending on Dracula. He is already part of Dracula world. He's not a vampire, but he is mentally ill, and he does whatever Dracula asks him to do. He's running his errands. I mean, I just feel sorry for him because all the other people in this opera, they have still their own will. All the mistakes they make make them because they may be thinking wrongly or acting wrongly or something. Whatever happened to them, that's actually maybe not totally their fault, but they're able to change their fate, but they don't do it for some reason. But he is not able to do anything. He's just he's the author of the evil forces. It's Quincy, Holmwood, and Dr. Seward, sung by tenor singer, baritone, and bass baritone singers. They are suitors of Lucy. But they are also interested in they as most gentlemen in London of the time, they were very interested to go to all these scientific performances in the theaters, and that's how they are becoming aware of the existence of Dracula or some vampire presence in London through meeting Dr. Van Helsing, who is the professional vampire hunter. And he kind of leads all this group through the opera on this huge vampire hunt. And his goal is to capture Dracula, to put him in the cage and show him in the theaters for money, practically, as the perfect example of vampire. We have him here, we captured him, that's a scientific phenomena, look at him, touch him, but now he cannot bite anymore, but we have him here.